Yeah. Cool. So hi, my name is Dan Mascola. I'm the founder of an online ed tech platform called Moosiko that's made to help guitar, ukulele, and modern band programs boost student motivation and help with teacher assessment and help teachers save time. And Carmella, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Carmella Berthia. I teach on the Little Village North Lawndale High School campus. I teach World Language Academy, and at Social Justice High School, I'm the Fine Arts Chair at Social Justice, and I teach modern band, and I also teach chorus.
Nice. So yeah, so we were chatting the other day, and you said that you were doing this paperless classroom this year, and that that word was very intriguing to me, and so I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. So maybe tell me, like, what is a paperless classroom?
Okay, cool. So like when you go, like, so a paperless classroom is literally what it sounds like. You're trying to either eliminate paper or, you know, just to flip it around, have less paper in your classroom so that you can do more things digitally and have things be a little bit more in sync than they would be when you're just traditionally using paper.
Yeah, totally. And I imagine, you know, the pandemic of the last year has kind of spurred us, everyone in this direction. But why, what particular for you about wanting to go paperless?
Okay. Actually, so a funny story, I actually started going paperless the January before the pandemic. So that's the beginning of our like semester 2. And I told my students beginning of semester 2, January 2020, I was like, listen, for the rest of the year, we're going to be strictly paperless for assessments, you know, and for turning in any assignments. We're going to turn in assignments paperlessly. So you can still do them on paper, but you're going to either take a picture of them or scan them in. We're going to fully use Google Classroom, so there's no confusion about anything. So when I was teaching, and I was strictly doing pen and paper for submissions and using technology just for like to just kind of like as a tool to display the instruction. What I really noticed, I have a lot of students who are very shy, who are painfully shy, and they don't want to ask questions out loud, and they'll have burning questions, and they'll be afraid that someone's going, even if you tell them the questions are fine, they're afraid that someone's going to look at their question and say that it's dumb or that it's stupid or that they shouldn't ask it. And so they don't feel comfortable with asking them out loud. And they don't always have the time to stay after class to ask. I also noticed that I had some students who had trouble with keeping up with their work, and also had trouble with turning in work where it's supposed to be turned in the classroom. And when you have 60 or 70 kids in the class, then you know that gets really kind of hard to track down. Oh, I didn't turn it in the bin. I put it on top of the piano 2 days ago. It's still there. And I'm like, no, it's not still there. It's not still on the piano. And then the other thing is just the fact that, like I said, having a large student load and wanting to make sure that I give students personalized instruction, it's hard to give 60 students personalized instruction in 50 minutes. It's almost impossible. So I really feel like the best way, and it's what's expected. It's what's expected, and also I like to teach. And so I didn't want to just, you know, spend all of my time trying to do this administrative part of it and then lose the love for teaching, which is why I got into teaching in the first place.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to be pushing papers around as part of your job, right? The technology can handle that piece of it, and then you can focus more on the strategic teaching things, which sounds like you love. So explain kind of what this looks like, right? So what are the tools you're using, and do you expect to go like fully paperless this year? And kind of what are all the pieces that you need to go paperless?
Okay, so like for me, it's really, so the technology is a tool, right? It's not necessarily just the thing itself. It's not the end all and be all of it. So I mean, some things that I've looked at, I like the flat platform has been pretty interesting. And I use a lot of Google tools because those are things that my district use. Those are definitely approved by our district to use. So I integrate a lot of things with Google Slides, and then, using things like Pear Deck on top of that, using Google Forms to collect data, and then using Google Sheets and all that kind of stuff. So I use a lot of those tools in order to kind of streamline what I need to do in my classroom. And then grade transfer to transfer grades over. And I like, what is it? Flipgrid. Flipgrid is cool. I know it doesn't always work for everybody, but I think that anytime that you can integrate video and being able to give kids feedback, especially in music, if you're doing anything where students are practicing at home, or even the benefit of just taking like a 10-second snippet of kids in choir singing through a passage so you can hear how they're doing individually. I think that that's important. So anytime that you can use video and integrate video, which is why I really like your product too, Moosiko. I think that it's great because it integrates that as well. I'm going to try to look at to get my district to approve that as well. But yeah, anytime you can integrate video, I think that's important, especially for music.
Yeah, one of the cool things we learned last year is even just, from our customers, 5-second video clip of someone holding a guitar and playing one strum. You really learn what's going on, right? Like, oh, the guitar's backwards, right? Or like, oh, their hand is in like the totally wrong place. And even if it's a very short video, you can kind of glean very quickly what mistakes they're making. Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. Once I started integrating like those really quick one-to-one, individual videos, like it really improved what I was able to do with my students, and they were able to improve on their technique a lot quicker than me walking around in the room.
Yeah, totally.
And trying to just observe by hand and do a checklist. No.
Yeah, the personalized, aspect of kind of technology and learning is kind of where where the world is going. And are you all on Chromebooks or like computers or tablets or something? I'm imagining all these tools are being used on a one-to-one device.
Yeah, so right now, each department has like a set of either Chromebooks or laptops that they use. When we were out for the pandemic, every student was one-to-one with devices. So all last year, every student was one-to-one. I'm not sure what that's going to look like this next year coming, but when I was moving into even just trying to start to get my students doing things paperlessly, I was looking into using websites like Donors Choose to get technology donated, and also just started with students using the tech that they had. So my classroom welcomed them to be able to use technology. Our school doesn't ban kids from having their cell phones. And so since students were on their cell phones anyway in my class, then I made that a tool that we were going to use in the class. So now my students use their cell phones for instruction, for recording videos, for doing Kahoots, for giving feedback on slides and everything like that. And then those students who have laptops, they can bring their laptop, they can charge it. I have cell phone chargers in the front of the classroom so students can actually be able to use them. And we actually just got 4 Macs put in the room, so that was cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's smart. You kind of use whatever resources you have, right? Yeah, one of our customers last year, they didn't have one-to-one, but between parents' phones and tablets they had hanging around, were able to use Moosiko because you could just find a device, and they're pretty much everywhere these days.
Yeah, I think what you just said, I think that's really important. I think just even the fact of like whatever technology you can find using that. I know people who have taken like old cell phones that have been, been discarded, not because they're not usable, but because somebody wanted a new cell phone, and they've just used them as like a mini tablet in the classroom because they can still connect to the Wi-Fi and use the apps and such.
Yeah.
So anything that you can.
It's a fun fact. I'll just throw this in here because I was just watching the Olympics. Is all the medals in the Olympics are used from old technology pieces. Like 6 million cell phones went into making all the medals in the Olympics. So they're big on sustainability this year. So I thought it was really cool stat.
It is cool. I just
What are
imagine
some,
them with iPhones.
yeah, right. What are some challenges you see? Let's say this year you really go all paperless. Anything you might be worried about?
So like from students or just like anybody?
Anybody in general.
Okay, so like I think that like the pros, of course, we've talked about a lot of the pros and stuff. But I would say some of the challenges that I see, the biggest one right now for me, my biggest concern for my students is burnout. That's my biggest concern because they've been in a house for a year and a half, and there are some of them that never logged in at all. And I'm gonna talk to you about my concern with that later. But for the ones who are on every day, there's gonna be a little bit of resistance there from some kids because they're gonna be like, well, I'm in school now. I don't want to use my phone.
Yeah.
I've been using my computer for the last year and a half. And I think it's going to be really important for me to honor that and to slowly integrate technology back again with my instruction. Even though it seems like it makes perfect sense for me to go like fully paperless at the beginning of the school year, because I'm concerned about where they are socially, emotionally. I'm just going to take it step by step and I'm going to see where they are. And then hopefully by semester 2, we're fully in doing what I need them to do. The other reason why I'm concerned is because I have some students, like I said, who didn't log on at all last year. And for those students, they're going to be frustrated with trying to catch up with the technology that the other students have already been learning how to use, because they weren't really online, and they just kind of got on at the end of the year, whether it was because they couldn't access a device or because they had responsibilities at home. They're going to be behind the other students and actually using that technology because they didn't really have a chance to use it as much while we were out. And so, again, that's another reason why I'm going to kind of do a slow piece by piece integration in my class and try to, get students comfortable with each tool piece by piece, and then fully incorporate it in semester 2, which will be January 2022.
Yeah.
And then we just talked about cost, right? It costs a lot. Like if you really want to have one-to-one devices in your school and your school isn't providing that costs a lot of money. You're saying even if you're getting, just Chromebooks for each student, that's at least, at minimum, you could be between, $5,000 to $15,000 just trying to get basic technology for students. And I don't know any teachers that's like, who have like $15,000 in their back pocket.
Right.
So, but that's why, grant writing is super important when you're looking at this. Donors Choose is a great way to practice grant writing, because the whole process that they have you fill out as you're going throughout mimics what you do when you're writing a grant. So yeah, I mean those, and also like there's some schools who even when people go back, they're going to be banning phones. Like there are some schools, some elementary schools, they ban phones. You can't have a cell phone. So if your kids don't have technology when they come in, then then what do you do? So then it's either that they're using the technology when they're at home, or you're finding some kind of way for them to do things in a way like with plickers or something like that, where they can hold up a card or something like that.
Right. It becomes a challenge. Yeah. I wanted to ask kind of a specific question. I saw this in a Facebook group posting recently, is putting Chromebooks on music stands. Where are you gonna put the devices in the music classroom?
Yeah, that's something else. Well, yeah, I wouldn't put them on a music stand. I had students who tried that when we got back, and I was like, no, that's not going to work.
It's a bad idea.
But no, it's not a great idea at all. So for me, I actually have I have a few like long tables in my room that I put up from time to time. And so, like I said, I wouldn't have students doing things that they need their computers for every day. So if there's a day that we're going to work on things where you're going to need like a bigger device, like if we're going to work on a slideshow project or something like that, then that'll be a day where I'd have those tables up, and then students can work on those tables. I know a lot of my students, when I started letting students bring in their devices 2 years ago, they were using their laptops on their lap.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and they were very careful with that. So it was either the lap or with one of the tables that were around the classroom. Yeah, that's funny with the stance, but yeah.
So some teachers were like, oh yeah, not a problem. Others were like, no way, you know, the thing's gonna topple over. And one recommendation was you get a pool noodle, you know, and you put it over the stem of the stand, and then that like stabilizes, because of course you put it flat, right? You put the music stands flat, and then you put the computer on top of it. So I thought that was really funny. Pool noodles on.
Oh, that's interesting.
Stand. Yeah,
that's interesting. We do have some that are like stable enough to hold them, but I don't ever trust it because our students don't check, and so they'll just plop it down, or they'll plop something down on top of a stand, and it goes like that. So
yeah. Everyone said tighten up the nuts real good, you know. Cool. So one last question on just kind of advice to other teachers that are kind of going to go paperless. You know, any tools to look at, any kind of resources to take a look at?
I would say first make sure before you do anything else, make sure that you see what tools your district allows you to use. And also advocate for any tools that you don't think that you see that have been working that your district may not be allowing you to use. I know some schools have lists like that. If your school doesn't have a list like that, like I said, I already said earlier, I love your tool, Moosiko. I also like Tone Savvy for theory. Flat does the same thing as a Tone Savvy. So those are two kind of tools that are kind of similar. And then like I said, anything that you can use to record, anything you can use to record video with is great. I know some people also use Screencastify to record video. That's another great tool. Any of the, if you have any old slideshows, downloading Pear Deck or downloading Nearpod so you can make those old slideshows interactive really works out really well. I found that to be a really big help, especially with making like some of the older worksheets that I had a lot more interest in making those into slides. So, and Chrome Music Lab is amazing.
Cool.
Because there are a ton of different things that you can do. It's very much geared towards inquiry, which is really kind of hard sometimes when you're just doing basic music instruction, but it really helps for students to really be able to kind of take a look at what pitch is, what pitch does, how to build rhythms. They can kind of experiment with the basics of using a DAW. There's a shared piano element that they just added to it, so it's great.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, a lot of our customers also use Soundtrap. I don't know if that's something you use as well.
Oh yeah, no, I like sound. I usually flip between either Soundtrap, BandLab, or Soundation. For my students who really want to start learning but aren't quite sure, Soundtrap is a lot more user-friendly at the beginning. I have some students who are a little bit more advanced and they want to be able to kind of explore and do a little bit more. And so then I give them either BandLab or Soundation as an option, because I have high schoolers. So some of them have been using like some version of Cubase or Fruity Loops. And so Soundation mirrors those things, whereas Soundtrap does a really good job of allowing students to kind of not make those mistakes that they might make early on with trying to mix their own tracks together. It automatically syncs things up. It automatically changes keys. So it's a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah, totally. Okay, awesome. Yeah, those are all the questions I had for you. So thanks for taking the time and helping other teachers that might want to go paperless this year.
Oh no, thanks so much. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Dan. You're awesome.
Cool.